Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I conduct work life video interviews with career professionals that become an all intuitive conversation. Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and this is another episode of All Intuitive Conversation. I connect with my guests through Sekhem Energy, all in the hopes to encourage you, me, them to live smart and ascend to new levels of success in our work and life. Today, I have the pleasure of connecting with Thomas. Let's bring him to the screen. Aloha, Thomas.
Aloha, Felicia. How are you?
I am doing well. It is great to connect with you. So, you are a guest that I have never had a conversation with before. So, I will be getting to know a little bit about you. So, thank you for being here with me today.
Pleasure's mine.
So, my first question, when I was connecting with you with Thomas, that I'm going to ask you, do you know the meaning of your name?
I believe it means twin, but what I think about when I think about my name Thomas, I think about the biblical reference in Thomas being a skeptic or a doubting Thomas. Yeah, I don't know if I think I'm right on the second part. I'm not sure about the first part.
Okay. Actually, yeah, it does mean twin, for sure. And yes, there's about the whole Thomas and the Bible scripture connected with that. So, with that meaning and understanding, what have you been a skeptic about in your life?
Well, I remember back in college, I used to see these bumper stickers that said "Question Authority," and
Hmm.
I never knew what that meant really at the time. And now that I'm much more enlightened,
Mhm.
I understand that people in leadership, you shouldn't always take everything at face value, but you should understand issues and you should understand circumstances and try to better understand them so that you can question authority, but that more likely so that you can be sure that people are operating or acting in ways that are beneficial to your fellow citizens and to you and so forth.
Well, you're already definitely aligning with that energy because here's the part that it came out, right, about how
Oh,
to
my
things.
goodness.
And what it says at the bottom of this card, it says an unwise choice. There's a better way that will make you happier. Avoid people who lack integrity or who have questionable motives, right? So it's
Yeah,
definitely what you're one of those things you're talking about, encouraging people like, okay, the skeptic or the not really honest kind of people, like avoiding them, right?
right.
So with that though, with you with the name being Thomas, and people are not knowing you like I'm getting to know you, describe Thomas to me. What is it about him that I should trust?
Um, well, just to tell you a little bit about myself, and it will give you some sense of how I've lived my life. Is I'm a father of two sons, ages
Mm,
two boys, ages 23 and 21. They're both adopted from a country in Eastern Europe called Moldova. With the war in Ukraine, Moldova has been a bit more in the news because of its proximity to Ukraine.
mm,
Uh, I've often thought of myself as having a joie de vivre, kind of a lust for life, and I've tried to live a life of purpose.
mm,
I've been to about 40 countries, probably. I met three U.S. presidents, a number of world leaders, mostly because I worked in higher education, so I had that opportunity. But I've been
mm,
successful professionally. But at the same time, I was an active alcoholic and addict for 25 years. It was I call it the saboteur inside me. Uh,
mhm,
never slept under a bridge. but I had slipped into darkness. And fortunately, now a big part of my story is recovery. I've been in recovery for and sober for 14 years now. So I try to now this purposeful life that I've set out to create for myself. I'm aiming that more towards people that have addiction issues because it's a scourge that has hit certainly the United States, but a scourge that has affected people worldwide. It's almost impossible to speak to someone who hasn't been directly affected by alcoholism and addiction.
Mm, yes, it definitely impacts our society more than what people may think. There's some image of someone just like you said, homeless under the bridge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because immediately when I was tapping into energy, three more cards it came out, and they had the theme of expansion, transmutation,
Oh,
and harmony. And this is what it says for the three trigger statements: I'm not enough. I don't know who I am. I'm boiling over. And I would think those are all kind of phrases that will impact someone's life that may be experiencing these type of addictions. But the true statement for each one of these is I love myself. I am. And I allow myself to feel.
yeah.
And it's like so
Yeah.
many times people, I'm gonna go with the feeling part. When people experience the addictions, they are numbing out some type of feeling that has hurt them in the past. And you openly shared about your journey. Like, what were you feeling during that time where you were kind of struggling with those addictions?
Um, I had slipped into this dark place, but I was feeling hopeless. I was
Mm,
feeling helpless. And I was so full of fear because I knew I had this addiction. And when I say addiction, for me, it was both alcohol because it's so socially acceptable and readily available. But my addictions went well beyond that. I have an addictive personality.
mm,
And so I was feeling this, as I say, I was just feeling hopeless about it. And I was not, and my fear stemmed from the fact that I knew I had to quit.
mhm,
I knew I had to get my substance abuse under control, but I was just not sure I could do it. So that's where my fear stemmed from. Now, 14 years into recovery, I I feel much more hopeful, much less fear, and I live in the present. I know that um, I can think about my life in terms of this healthy way of living rather than this addictive way of living.
yes. So, what was that moment? Because the next one that kind of came out was domestic harmony. So, when describe that moment when you finally decided the fear was no longer outweighing the fact that you wanted to get help. What was that moment?
Well, I was kind of forced into that because I had a DUI, and honestly, it had been my second DUI.
Mhm,
So there was just no more escaping the fact that I had to go to rehab.
mm,
And one thing I will say about rehab, I don't know that I could have gotten sober without attending a treatment center.
mm,
But even so, after treatment, I relapsed for probably 5 or 6 times in the year following rehab. But what I said to my wife was, uh, and she was understandably just kind of freaked out about all this. You've gone to rehab, you've had these issues, and now you're
mhm,
relapsing again. I completely understand that feeling. But for the first time, I could say to her, and it had the benefit of being true, as I was learning how to live sober. I was learning how to string together a few days and then a few weeks, a few months. So now my sobriety date of 14 years is based on a constant sobriety, but albeit 1 year after I went to rehab.
mhm. What I appreciate is your honesty in the sense that people, you went to rehab and you had a setback.
Yes.
Um, because many times you hear their stories like, "Oh, we just go once and it's done. I'm
Yeah.
cured, and all is well." But it's not giving up the hope,
Yeah.
right? It's like you said, living. How do, like I said, as I like to say, live smart. How do I live with this instead of expecting some
Yes.
miraculous, kind of
Yeah.
cure, so to speak?
Yeah. Felicia, I used to think about it, and I think this is common, probably anybody going into addiction treatment is my
Mhm.
thought was, you mean I can never drink again?
Mm.
Some point in my sobriety, I'll say about the 2-year mark, there wasn't a, um, I didn't deliberately get to this point, but at some point my thinking changed from, I can never drink again to I never have to drink again. And I was comforted by that thought as I am today. Right now, I don't face the ongoing daily cravings of addiction, and so I feel pretty sure-footed about that. Never say never,
Mhm.
but for the grace of God go I. But now there is light at the end of the tunnel. I can see this life that is much more along the lines of allowing me to fulfill my potential rather than having my potential hidden behind these various addictions.
Mm, yes. So the other card that had came out earlier was this queen that's sitting here with this sword. But the life is comes where it talks about life can be this double-edged sword, right?
Yeah,
And how we navigate that. And the
yeah,
bottom of this card it says brilliant, experienced, humorous, judgmental, releasing situations or people that no longer serve you. So like you were releasing this whole situation of, addiction. Those things were no longer serving you. And it says seeing the humor in difficult situations, focusing on career. So with that, now with your career today, tell me about that. What are you doing?
well, I had been in marketing. My career was in marketing, both at the
Mhm,
corporate level, and then I was in higher education for a number of years, as I had mentioned a moment ago.
mhm,
Now I left that. I'd been doing that for a long time.
mhm,
I used to live in Reno, Nevada. I live in Wells, Maine now. Uh, but my next door neighbors in Reno were the first CBD providers in the state in the state of Nevada.
mhm,
Through them, I got to know about CBD, and through them, I also asked a number of inquiring questions about, hey, do you have any experience with CBD helping people with addiction issues? And they really just lit up, and they mentioned a number of friends of theirs that they had given their products to that that CBD had helped them with. So I started a company with my son, who is also in addiction recovery, called exactnature.com. Exact Nature, and the website's exactnature.com.
mhm,
Um, and our customer base are people that are struggling with substance use issues. They may not be uh, full-fledged alcoholics and addicts as I am, but they are people that want to cut down. So that's where I've been able to continue a life of purpose. And for me, and for our company, whenever we have a sale, it always feels like a tangible step that someone is taking towards uh, improving their life and perhaps their uh, connection and relationship to these harmful substances.
yeah. So the next card that was as you were explaining how you were doing, it has a theme of flow, and the trigger statement says, "Why are things such a struggle?" True statement, I am in the flow. Take a breath, dear one, and allow yourself to feel the flow of life through you. Release your need to do and just be. So, how do you, with this career that you're having with the CBD, how do you encourage individuals to release that addiction struggle?
Yeah, for me, and this is a common feeling among people in addiction recovery. We always hid behind our addictions and the substances that we were abusing.
Hmm.
Getting sober means living in the present. and living and facing all of those issues that you medicated for prior to that. So for me, I never say that CBD will cure somebody of an addiction. That I would never suggest that. But what CBD can do is um, it can just help you feel better. And so once you start feeling better, then you can start uh, healing. And so
Mhm.
CBD can help stabilize important bodily function from mood to sleep and addictive cravings. So once you can tamp down the addictive cravings, and then once you start feeling better, you can really better focus on this more all-round healing that needs to take place in addiction recovery.
Okay. So the next question that's coming through is addressing how would you respond to those doubting Thomases that say, how does using CBD help someone else with, you know, this type of addiction? Isn't that just an exchange for an addiction?
Yeah.
Addiction. So, what would you say to that doubting Thomas person that's out there?
Yeah, good question and fair question. Um, some people see so some people got sober as I did, and that I call it white knuckling it, right?
Mhm.
We stopped, and with all of the challenges that go with that, and that's a fine way to do it. And people that have been in recovery a long time are more apt to have gotten sober that way. But it's not the only way. And some people would say that it's trading one crutch for another. I just don't agree with that sentiment in any case because uh, CBD is an all natural substance. As I say, it stabilizes these important bodily functions. It works through something called the endocannabinoid system, and what it does is it brings your body back into balance. And so, by bringing your body back into balance, CBD replenishes this depleted endocannabinoid system, an endocannabinoid system that gets depleted by just the stressors and all the challenges of everyday life. So I think it's an all natural way to just to help. It's a tool in a toolbox, but it's not. I would never suggest that you just take a capsule or a soft gel, something of that sort, and that your addiction is going to be cured. It just no, you have to have a broad-based approach. Addiction is just too powerful. That's why we have 20 million plus active alcoholics and addicts in this country right now.
Well, it sounds like you have thought about that and you're facing
Yeah,
those things. And so I was shuffling to hear like, okay, what is the help of symbolic that Thomas is kind of channeling right now? And you got Hilron,
hmm,
which
yeah,
is divine healing. And it says, honor your sensitivity, retreat to recharge and heal. Your light can support others. And this is what the a message says about that. The world can seem overwhelming to you, and it's okay to retreat to a safe place every now and then to cleanse and recharge your energy. You may feel called to serve others or share your healing with them. But please ensure you are filled with the light, love, and energy first. That you are not sacrificing your own development for others. You are surrounded by the healing light of Hilaron and the healing angels at this time so that you can recharge and feel whole.
boy, I love that, Felicia. I really connect with that in so many levels because in in as you get sober, it's important to believe in something greater than yourself. And we say that's something that we say often in AA and in recovery, and that it's an inside job that we have to tend to those feelings that we have that we're struggling with as we get sober, perhaps the sources of our addiction in the first place, and then the healing can happen. And it's hard to have that. It's hard for the healing to occur before that happens. So um, a lot of people talk about God in AA, but there are also just people that embrace a higher power
Yeah.
as they define that. So at times I'm a little uncomfortable with it being so specifically aimed at God, because I think it is much greater than that, as do many people
Mhm.
in addiction recovery. But it is an inside job. We have to become comfortable with who we are, comfortable in our own skin before we can really uh, fulfill the promise that we have.
Indeed.
Mm.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the show and being open to having this all intuitive conversation. For those that are watching and be like, hey, I want to connect with Thomas and learn more about how he's serving others, how can people reach you?
Well, I would start with going to our website, and my contact information is found on the website, which is exactnature.com. Exact nature is a phrase that we've taken from the fifth step of AA's 12 steps. So we have a direct connection, even in our name, to helping people in addiction recovery. And uh, I would say start there. I'm very responsive. I try to get back to anybody that reaches out within 24 hours, and I almost always am able to do that. I would also say that if you have listeners that come to the website and would like to try products, then given the generosity that you've shown me and having me as a guest, Felicia, I'd like to offer in return a generosity to your audience. So for all intuitive conversation, uh, the audience, you can go and put AIC 20, and they will receive a 20% discount on their order. And I will honor that throughout 2023. So if someone were to view this and at any point in 2023, that offer will stand throughout the year.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Thank you for sharing
Um,
that,
but
Thomas.
I,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in CBD and in the role that it can play in helping people um, just feel better. So that's something I'm happy to do, of course.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you for those that have joined Thomas and I. I do hope that you were encouraged to live smart and ascend to new levels of success in your work and life. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, just visit sevenfoldcoaching.com. And until we meet again, this has been an all intuitive conversation.